Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, Key Trends and Personalized User Experiences for Fashion and Beauty, Top Insights for 2020. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Matt Levin. I'm the Global Head of Marketing at Nosto. Whether you're a technology provider like Nosto or Olapic, an agency, retailer on the front lines, or anybody else in the e-commerce world, we can all pretty much agree on one thing. The only constant right now in e-commerce is change, particularly in fashion and beauty. There have been some really interesting shifts in consumer behavior that have major implications for retailers now into the future. So we've pulled together some of the most interesting data points we're seeing heading into 2020, as well as made some predictions for the future based on this insights. And we're really excited to share that with you today. So I am super excited to be joined by Kaylee Barker, who's the Director of Account Management at Olapic today. And before I let her introduce herself and her company, I'd like to say just a quick sentence or two about Nosto. So for those of you not familiar with Nosto, we're an AI-powered personalization platform that enables e-commerce professionals to deliver personalized omni-channel shopping experiences at every touch point across every device. We are 100% focused on serving the needs of retailers and work with fashion and beauty brands across over 100 different countries. Kaylee, please take a moment to introduce yourself as well.
Thanks, Matt. So, hi everyone, I'm Kaylee from Olapic. Olapic is the provider of 3 connected platforms that allow brands to collect, curate, create, and activate user-generated, influencer-generated, and video content at scale in a multi-channel approach. I head up the account management team based in London, and my team are responsible for the success of Olapic's existing client base. So we look after the strategy, best practices, and platform adoption, and making sure that our clients are making the best of our technology. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. All right. So let's take a quick look at the agenda here today. So as I mentioned, we're going to take a look at both some data points and predictions for the future. And so we've broken this out into 2 sections. I'm going to talk through the piece on how to leverage personalization to improve the customer journey. I'm going to take you through those data points and predictions for the future. And Kaylee is going to take you through understanding how to leverage user-generated content and influencers to improve the customer journey. We're gonna share some of these insights, both based on our own proprietary analysis and some third-party data that we pulled together. So let's start with the 3 data points on fashion shopping patterns. These and try to dive into understanding what the implication is actually for fashion brands and their personalization strategies. So right off the bat, I've got a pretty controversial, or not controversial, but a pretty interesting stat here that we've really seen that fashion commerce has reached with the mobile tipping point. And so we've been hearing about mobile for shopping for what seems like forever. Traditionally, the trade-off has been that mobile drives traffic, but purchases happen on desktop. And we've actually seen now over the course of 2018 that trend has finally flipped. And then we're calling this a mobile tipping point. So we saw in Q1 that the share of mobile devices in terms of actual purchase share has finally exceeded that of desktop devices, 46% to 44%. So it's a pretty, we're now really in new territory, and the remainder numbers there are just tablets and other devices. So it doesn't quite add up to 100%. But it really is a kind of a new chapter for fashion brands, and so this age-old trade-off is really not a reality anymore. Shopping online is really mobile first, and this is just it really leaves, I think, a big question for retailers they have to think about. It's ultimately, like, if you're thinking about your personalization strategy, are you doing enough on the mobile experience? Are you really tackling the types of not just product recommendations, but content personalization, kind of predictive merchandising, other types of capabilities? Are you leveraging that both in your mobile experience and your desktop experience? Because if you're not, you're putting revenue and opportunity at risk here. Second key data point that we see is that really fashion shoppers are hugely impatient, particularly on mobile. And so what do we actually mean by this? Well, it's pretty stark when you look at the actual average sex per shopping visit. So we analyze data based on this behavior of over 1 billion visits in 2018, and we see that really as shoppers are shifting their attention to smartphones, overall time spent on shopping effectively goes down. You can think about this in is that because there's more and more mobile sessions and less desktop, if their mobile sessions are shorter, that means then the average time spent online shopping, for the same amount of visits actually goes down. And in fact, the ratio is that for every 5% shift to mobile in terms of the visit share, it's a 2% decrease in total shopping visit time. So this, you think about this, so what's actually happening here? I mean, it intuitively makes sense that we're often browsing smartphones when we're in transit or on the go, so it's easy to get distracted and abandon what we're looking at. And this really presents a challenge for retailers given the limitations of product visibility on mobile devices. To drive conversion, it's crucial to maximize the limited window of consumer attention. You can think about this also in a way that each digital action gets more valuable and the value of each personalized experience goes up in this world. And ultimately less time on site, less real estate increases the importance of this interaction. And the equation then becomes, if you've got the wrong content, you've got the wrong products, you're talking about significant lost revenue. You don't have the same kind of opportunity in a longer session on mobile that you do on desktop to be able to get the right products and the right experiences in front of consumers. So this shifting attention is something that also has to be taken into consideration as we see this shift to mobile, mobile device share. So if you think about that, there's big implications then for the type of experience and personalization experience and capabilities that you have on mobile devices. But what we see actually when we look at the data is that personalization at scale really still is a big challenge for retailers. First data point coming from some third-party research is that 70% of marketers, so 3/4 of marketers believe that real-time personalization is crucial. So there's a shared awareness that this is a critical piece. But that same group of marketers, almost 2/3 of them struggle to actually do it. So there's a big gap here in terms of the ability to execute. And then on the consumer side, again, over 3/4 of them expect that they have some level of multi-channel personalization. And then in a really kind of big highlighting gap, and this expectations gap, is that only 23% of them say that they actually experience these personalized experiences. So it's really not for a lack of trying, right? Based on some Nosto analysis we did across retailers globally, the average retailer is now using 8 different analytics and commerce technologies. That's just analytics and specific kind of conversion optimization, pop-ups, et cetera. I mean, that's a pretty big technology stack. And based on some additional data, we see that there's really 2 priorities for retailers in 2019. It's personalization and creating a single customer view. So there's definitely this awareness that these are really big, huge priorities. And so it's these 2 gaps here: this expectations gap for consumers and a delivery gap, on the retailer side. And as retail continues to evolve, retailers who embrace this technology and get ahead of this are going to win, and those who don't are really going to struggle. So, I mentioned before there's this expectations gap. It really comes down to, the end result of that gap means unsatisfied shoppers, and an attention gap that we saw with the time spent on mobile devices versus desktop. It really means less time for discovery, and delight consumers. And we know that we saw from the data that from the investment priorities that retailers understand that a unified multi-channel experience requires the right data and delivery technology. And yet at the same time, they're seeing that there's kind of frustrations and inabilities to do it. And so this really means that we've got a delivery gap in personalized experience, which means a potential revenue gap for retailers. And the retailers who get ahead of that delivery gap and those experiences are going to cross that revenue gap and are going to be winners. So let's turn our attention to some predictions here. first one that we have, ultimately we believe that more retailers are going to embrace the power of behavioral data. So why is that? Well, in behavioral data, we're classifying as like, effectively in contrast to like CRM data. This is actually things like click stream behavior, the way people interact on a product on a site, click, tap, swipe, the relationships between products, etc. So like ultimately, one of the biggest important layers here in modern retail is data privacy. We've seen how GDPR cracked down on consumer privacy, requiring EU customers to opt into website. You've seen those kind of pop-ups obviously everywhere, and retailers have embraced that. And it's certainly been a challenge. And similar, the U.S. is following suit to tighten consumer privacy. There's a California Consumer Privacy Act and other legislation on the horizon. It's going to continue to make the usage of third-party data and capturing and using PII, personally identifiable information, more challenging. As it gets harder to use this data and harder to deploy it, means that behavioral data, so the stuff that people express based on they don't need to be opted in, they can do it on their kind of anonymized behavior. That behavioral data will be much more valuable. Retailers are going to have to infer more based on that behavioral data. So likewise, we see that with retailer investments, looking at developing single customer view and personalization, and that focus, and that retailers are really recognizing that a kind of a rule-based or static type of stale CRM data based on transactional data is a weak approach. And so there's multiple forces driving the shift towards harnessing consumer behavior. We think we'll see a lot more of this adoption over the next year and coming years. And ultimately, what does this mean? This means that better behavioral data can fuel better segmentation, better insights, better content, better personalization, and ultimately better experience for customers, which means more revenue for retailers. In a kind of a related note, CDP, so this is a customer data platform. So essentially single data hubs that take this type of behavioral data in. We're going to see them, they're continuing to advance across enterprise retailers. Still going to be a challenge in the mid-market. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, ultimately, they're expensive solutions. They're require a lot of integrations. They're seen as kind of start out with kind of enterprise data hubs. We see that there are some ESPs trying to move in the space, but really they're not intelligent enough. They don't have the kind of the backing. They're kind of email first providers versus data providers. They're just not quite intelligent enough to provide a quality experience. And you see a lot of CRM platforms also trying to become CDPs. But if you come from a world where you've taken in a kind of a static transactional data versus taking in a clickstream or on-site behavioral pattern in and creating predictions off it, it's a completely different technology approach. So, but we do think that there's going to be that this problem will be solved. And ultimately, if you think about it, like, who do you know, either among your kind of colleagues or peers, of who actually has a CDP with a 360-degree view of everything happening on marketing channels, on-site email, search, et cetera, that gives like, a view of lifetime value and behavioral analysis? Like, it's basically nobody. Nobody, has that, but everybody does want it. And so these, CDPs will continue to become an important part of the stack. And ultimately, like, we see there's data out there that says 78% of organizations have or are developing CDPs. So for our final prediction here, we really believe that visual search and image recognition is just going to go mainstream. And so this is the ability to actually search data that will understand images and search through them in a really powerful way for retailers. Ultimately, deep learning technologies are now off the shelf, so people can deploy models. We see this happening kind of everywhere in image recognition and video, and there's incredible advancements in tooling to give this stuff out of the hands of expert data scientists into the hands of kind of normal everyday developers, and ultimately embedded into technology platforms. And ultimately, there's better training data available everywhere. So people are creating more and more data sets. It's data continues to explode at an exponential rate. And there's some retailers who are already kind of making advancements here. Target and ASOS, for example, their shoppers are now able to snap a photo of products they discover in a physical store and find an actually similar item throughout the website. Pinterest is another example. They're leveraging visual search and image recognition to help streamline search capabilities. Last year they reported that their users generated more than 600 million combined monthly searches using their new visual search tool called Lens. And this tool actually generated more image results than ever returned by Google, which is pretty amazing. So there's these practical improvements. They're somewhat low key now, but they're emerging, and they will continue to emerge. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to hand this over to Kaylee to take it away on UGC and influencers.
Thanks, Matt. So yeah, as Matt said, I'm going to kind of talk you through the 3 key trends and 3 predictions for how UGC and influencers are improving the customer journey for beauty and fashion brands. So you probably know Olapic from the left-hand side of this slide here, which is really our bread and butter, activating UGC online for e-commerce brands. But as the space has evolved, UGC is now increasingly being activated in an omni-channel way, so in email, social, in-store, and via syndication to third-party retailers. And we are also now powering influencer content and automating influencer marketing programs. And the modern purchase landscape has changed. The consumer is in charge now. So with this landscape changing, the customer journey has also changed. Consumers want to be in charge of their own brand experience and are taking the lead in discovering products through a multitude of different channels. So a consumer might initially see a product that they want to buy, say on Instagram. They may then visit that brand's website, interact with an email, and maybe even more social posts before returning to the site to purchase. So this buying journey is no longer linear. And when it comes to influencer content, personalization is also critical. So 66% of respondents in Olapic's Consumer Trust Report said influencer content needs to be relevant to their unique interests. This research was conducted at the end of 2018 amongst 5,000 global social media users, focusing on that consumer trust. So on this slide here, you can now see some of the kind of insights that came out. So here's our first trend. UGC plays a role throughout the entire customer journey. So more than a third, so 37% of people surveyed said they seek out UGC in their shopping journey. And nearly 2/3 of people actually say they're influencers to purchase UGC that they came across by chance during their shopping journey. And we've already spoken about the fact that this buying journey is no longer linear, and we know that the peer trust is crucial. So this isn't a new concept, and a lot of brands have been utilizing text ratings and reviews, for example, for some time. But now what we're actually seeing is a huge increase in demand for images as well. So, we work with a large sportswear retailer, for example, and for women who are going on their site and browsing for running apparel, sports bras, leggings, you want to understand what that fit is really going to look like on someone with your body shape. And UGC can do that perfectly, much more so than a text review or a model shot. And this stat here, you've got post-purchase, 37% say they have posted a picture referencing a brand, show the brand they, enjoyed that product. At this point in your buying journey, consumers are highly engaged with your brand. They just bought a product, they're excited, and this is the perfect opportunity to ask for UGC. And we see a lot of clients who are kind of putting call to actions or uploaders in post-purchase emails, which is a great way of generating content. So on to the second trend, influencers have become trust builders for brands. A trend that we're witnessing more and more is that our brands are increasingly incorporating micro-influencer content as a core part of their content strategy. And lately, in this digital influence driven world, we've seen a huge shift in the trust ecosystem. So, before, brands really owned share of voice, but now it's been relinquished to a distributed ecosystem of trust. Today your consumer cares more about what somebody else thinks that they're connected to digitally rather than the information you provide to them as a brand. And that's what it's really about. Does someone that I know or respect trust this brand or believe what this brand is saying, as opposed to they're actually trusting what the brand says themselves. And it's the idea of a peer trust ecosystem. So now we've actually reached this point in influencer marketing where it's less about posting beautiful photos on Instagram or aligning with your big names. It's actually about building social proof and trust as a brand through people. It's about building those relationships and who can help you tell your brand story better. So as a brand marketing manager or brand owner, are you actually leveraging the right people to drive the conversation in the direction you want it to go right now? And carrying on from that, influencers, can drive purchase behavior. So we've seen that influencers play a key role in the customer journey. We did a study with one of our partners, Maverick, and we found that influencer generated content is 6.9 times more effective than studio shot content. And that's a tremendous gain over the bleak conversion rates many marketers are accustomed to in digital ads. And it's actually why brands are expected to pour as much as $2.38 billion into influencer marketing by the end of 2019. In our consumer trust report, as you can see here, we found that influencers can do more than drive awareness. They can actually lead people to purchase by playing matchmaker for consumers, helping them find new brands and products, which in turn increase the likelihood that they'll buy. So 34% who were surveyed discovered a new brand from an influencer's post, 32% are inspired by influencers, and 29% have purchased an item after seeing it in an influencer post. So if we look at our third trend, co-creation creates deeper brand loyalty. This is a topic that we're talking a lot about with our current clients at the moment. How can social play a part in increasing brand loyalty? And more specifically for Olapic, how can brands integrate UGC more with their existing loyalty programs? Today, digital savvy customers are eager to play a central role in the brand's voice and in brand's communication. And actually, 86% of millennials believe they have some ownership of the things or the brands that they're fans of. And social media is bringing consumers closer to brands. So in the decade ahead, co-creation and collaboration is going to be king. You can see some stats here. 25% tag brands in photos because they want the brand to share their photo. 24% want to create a connection with the brand. And this new breed of hyper-connected, digital savvy consumers are very eager to play a central role in creating a brand's products and services and to shape the way that that brand talks to the world. We actually have a great real life example, which is Dr. Martens, who are one of our clients, based here in the UK. And actually last year in 2018, Red Hot Penny ran a study and Dr. Martens' Instagram account was voted #1 in the UK. Now, this is despite their smaller follower numbers. The brand drove higher engagement rates than brands such as Nike and Adidas. And their Instagram account is almost entirely user and influencer generated content. So their loyal fan bases are not only just out there co-creating content for them, they're also obviously engaging en masse with this content. Great. So now we've looked at some trends, I'll move on to talking about 3 of our key predictions. So the first prediction is, UGC bridging the online offline shopping experience. This should come as no surprise, really. According to research by Kibo Software, an e-com tech supplier, 94% of consumers do research online before visiting a store. And on top of that, 81% of consumers said they have looked up inventory on a retailer's website before they actually visit the store. and 80% are less inclined to visit a store if a website does not provide current product availability. Now, one of our beauty brands, who are a client of ours, NYX, does an amazing job of connecting online and offline in their in-store experience. So we're just going to watch a quick video showcasing the launch of NYX's interactive store and the great job that they've done of bridging that online and offline shopping experience.
NYX's professional makeup has more followers than you and has built a brand around the social influencer community. Instead of buying media, they earn it. So when it came time to launch their first ever retail stores, our strategy was to turn to real fans and the faces they followed via user-generated content. And we celebrated them all over the store through 4 first-of-their-kind experiences. A product scanner that surfaces real-time looks posted by fans on Instagram. A trending wall helping shoppers see what looks are rising via social media. An interactive beauty bar featuring tutorials from leading vloggers. And an interactive palette builder that lets fans create the perfect, hyper-personal makeup palette. We brought social content to the shopping experience and they loved it.
It was a line worthy of an Apple product launch.
Hundreds of enthusiastic NYX customers came out to Valley Fair today.
This store seems to be a lot more interactive than most other retail makeup stores.
And I absolutely love that they don't hire models. They use the people, everyday girls like you and me, from the beauty community, from Instagram, from YouTube.
You get to meet like one of my favorite YouTubers and it means a lot to me.
The results were staggering. Fans lined up around the block. Instagram followers jumped by more than 2 million. Use of heart eyes emoji increased immeasurably. Sales exceeded every goal. And NYX was named Brand of the Year by WWD, declaring them a company fully focused on the future.
Great. So if we move on to the second prediction, so seamless customer experiences will become crucial. Now, this prediction is centered around the online customer journey and online customer experience. As we discussed in the trends section earlier, consumers are browsing and engaging with multiple different online channels before purchasing. So how do you ensure this journey is seamless? And it's all about the customer experience. So according to Vision Critical, 86% of consumers say they'll pay more for a better customer experience. And companies that prioritize the customer experience actually are seeing a 43% increase in performance, which is obviously enormous. And the industry is moving fast. So in the age of Amazon, where efficiency and digital intuition are highly prized, companies have to go further than ever to capture consumer loyalty. So offerings like Instagram Checkout, Pinterest Shop the Look, and Google Shopping are all creating the consumer expectation that the shopping experience should be seamless and consistent and simple. So it's kind of important to consider, the full customer journey. Users are no longer just hitting your homepage. They're coming directly from links on social, they're landing on product page, and they're moving through the buying funnel from there. And if they're seeing UGC and IGC elsewhere on social, on email, in store, make sure you're bringing this content onto your site as well. And you've just got the stat there that kind of backs up on what I was saying. So the 75% of respondents, said that by 2020, they expect companies to anticipate their needs and make relevant product or service suggestions. Great. So moving on to the third prediction, video will play a bigger role in the customer journey. So on video, we at Olapic know the power of video. With the adoption of Instagram stories and the increase in reach and engagement that brands see when using video in paid and organic social, the need for video content is rapidly increasing. And in turn, Olapic is seeing an increase in demand for our content and motion offering, which is actually helping brands create templated short form video. And these short form videos are performing by far better than still images, and they're really helping our brands feel the content crunch that they're experiencing, particularly on social. And you can see some stats here, 25% find videos more attractive than photos. 24% said they find a brand more trusting when they publish a video that they can actually relate to. And 23% are more likely to pay attention to a brand's video post than a photo. And we know video is also driving consumers to purchase. So 49% of global consumers have purchased a product after seeing a brand video. And this actually increased even further when you look at different demographic subsets. For example, this increases to 60% of US social media users have purchased after seeing a video. 57% when you look at Gen Z, so the 16 to 22-year-old market, and 55% of millennials, so the 23 to 34-year-olds. So this just shows you, how powerful video is and how it really can be driving your consumers to purchase. Okay, I'll hand it back to Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylee. That was great. Thanks to everybody for joining us today. If you have any additional questions or follow-up, or you're interested in some of the underlying data behind this presentation, please feel free to reach out to us at these emails. So marketing@olapic.com and marketing@nosto.com. I'll be happy to connect with you there. Again, you can check out both our website as well and our kind of different resources sections where we've got kind of variety of reports and other other data sets that help support this data and other ones. And we look forward to you joining us next time. So thanks everybody, I really appreciate it.